As we have discussed in recent days, in the months since the November election, since November 3rd, Republicans and Donald Trump collectively had managed to raise $250 million. Now, most of that money was raised by these entities under the guise of helping to pay for Donald Trump's legal challenges to the 2020 election. We also know now that out of that grand total of $250 million that was raised, according to the New York Times, only $10 million of it was actually used on election challenges. The rest of it went to help pay off some of the Trump campaign debt, help pay off RNC debts, and a lot of it is actually just sitting in a bank account for the Republican National Committee right now for them to use on candidates during the next election cycle. So the whole thing was just a big money-making operation. Couple weeks ago, before any of this news even came out, you had one big-time donor to Donald Trump's legal defense or legal challenge fund from Texas. He donated hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to this, only to find out that it didn't go to actually challenge the election results. So he filed a lawsuit against the Trump campaign. He wants his money back. He says, listen, I was swindled. You told me you were going to use my money for this, so I said, okay, take it. Then it turns out you didn't use it for that. So he is suing. And that lawsuit, by the way, even though I'm not optimistic that it's going to be successful, if it is successful, that opens the doors. It would actually open the floodgates for people to sue Trump and the Republican Party to get their money back if they donated it under the guise of helping to fight the election challenges. So that could cost them a couple $100 million. But here's the thing. According to a new report from The Intercept, it's so much murkier than any of us actually realized. Because it wasn't just Trump and it wasn't just the Republican Party, but Sidney Powell herself. You know, the woman who says the ghost of Hugo Chavez helped to steal the election. She was actually in on this too with her own little group. And her group, by the way, let me find it here, was called Defending the Republic. So that was the group that she had incorporated. And she had money in that. And then she raised money claiming the need to challenge the election that also went into defending the Republic. But according to The Intercept, that money was commingling with other money she had in there, and then she was spending it on not election things. If I didn't know any better, I would describe this whole operation from Powell and Trump and the Republican Party. I think the best way to describe it would be money laundering. Because that's kind of what it seems like it is. Now, I am, of course, not accusing any of these individuals of actually laundering money. But, man, it's really starting to look a lot like that. But really what this is most likely, and again, this would be up for a court to decide. This is just my opinion on it. But it's most likely some kind of fraud. I mean, let's be honest. If you walk up to somebody and say, hey, my organization here is raising money for X. If you give me your money, I'm going to spend it on that thing. And then they say, okay, well, I like X. Here's my money. I'm going to spend it on Y instead. Congratulations, you've committed a fraud. And you can be held accountable for it. Now, water gets a little murkier when you're dealing with campaign finance, when you're dealing with political fundraising and things like that. So, this is a tricky one. The courts are going to decide this. And what's funny is that this is going to be right-wing courts making the decision on whether or not right-wing politicians can swindle right-wing donors. So, no matter what happens, one faction of the Republican Party probably going to be pretty pissed. One of today's video sponsors is Privacy, and right now they have a wonderful offer for all of our Ring of Fire viewers. Go to privacy.com/ROF. Sign up for your Privacy account and you will receive $5. Privacy.com, their service is absolutely one of the most vital in an online world today, especially during the pandemic. Everyone is encouraged to stay home, so we're ordering more things online. And so your bank account information is more vulnerable than ever. Privacy gives you security. This is a product that I use all of the time, and here's why. If you have ever had your bank account information stolen, if it's been part of a data leak, that is a massive headache, trying to get your money back, trying to repair your credit. Privacy helps take away some of that concern. What Privacy does is it provides a browser extension, or you can go right into the website or into the app, and it can create a virtual bank account or credit card number. It can be a temporary number that only is used one time, or it can be merchant specific, meaning you can create a bank account card that only works for one particular website. So if that account happens to get hacked or has a massive data breach, that card number no longer works with any other website. That is how Privacy helps protect your bank account information in an increasingly insecure online world. So again, go to privacy.com/ROF. You get $5 free just for signing up. Or if you don't want to type it in, just click the link at the top of the video description below.